This podcast is sponsored by FortuneFavours.ie. FortuneFavours.ie is a home workout equipment store and your one-stop shop for all home gym equipment. They are well known for their adjustable dumbbells, which combine 15 different weights in one dumbbell. They have both 24 kg and 40 kg adjustable dumbbells. Check the link in the bio of this episode for more information. So welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Ben Burnley from the Hurling Podcast, dedicated to Wexford hurling. Just to talk about this weekend's hurling action, there are 6 games in the Allianz Division 1 this weekend, including Ben's beloved Wexford coming up against Offaly at home. So should be a very interesting weekend indeed. First of all, Ben, how are you keeping?
Oh, very good. Yeah, and yourself, Matt?
All good, man. Definitely looking forward to the hurling this weekend. Should be a very good weekend of action, and no better place to start for yourself anyway. Wexford up against Offaly at Wexford Park. It's on at 2:00 on Saturday. Wexford 3 wins in a row, Offaly 3 losses in a row. It should be a win for Wexford, but are you impressed with Wexford so far?
Well, we'd have to be impressed and very happy. Like the last 2 years of Davy probably didn't go as planned. You know, last year we were quite competitive, but still we only won 1 game in the championship against Laois. Wasn't great. This year, you know, a lot of people would have thought it'd be tough to come in after Davy, but Darragh Egan seems to have just been very smart in the way he went about it. He's not trying to rip up the script and what Davy's done. He's trying to use what Davy's done and add to it. You know, everyone's screaming, have a man in the full forward line. Like, we have one of the best target men in the country in Conor McDonald. So we may as well use him as a target man. So looking forward to the game on Saturday now. I was actually away for the previous league game in Wexford Park against Limerick, so I couldn't make it. So I'm looking forward to this one now. I don't think we'll see quite the same players. I think he's probably going to give lads a bit more of a go. You know, the Oisin Peppers, maybe Paul Morris might get a go. Niall Murphy. We could see a lot more of the younger guys, and maybe the fringe players get more game time. Hopefully see a bit of Gavin Bailey as well.
Yeah, some very interesting players coming out of Wexford, especially you mentioned there Oisin Pepper scoring 1-1 the last day against Galway. And I suppose beating Limerick, beating Galway, like, it's 3 wins in a row, but it's not against teams that are far away. These are teams that are at the top level, Galway, Limerick, etc. So that has to be positive for Wexford going so close into championship.
Oh, it's hugely positive. Like, I think the team did probably need to get off to a good start in the league, needed a bit of confidence, because confidence can drain the way the last 2 years were so disappointing. And they also got a bit of a trimming in the Walsh Cup up in Croke Park against Dublin. So maybe people were thinking this is not going to go well. So very important to get those 3 wins on the board. And again, not against any bad teams, you know, two away wins, and good to lay down a marker for first round of the championship is against Galway coming up in April. So it's very good last week to put down that marker against them, even though neither side was at full strength, but still good to get the win, get the confidence, and get different players doing well. Like, say, Oisin Pepper there scoring 1-1. It's great to get those players doing well, bringing in young players.
I suppose it definitely is, yeah. And I suppose Darragh Egan coming in, he was a bit of an unknown quantity, of course, after Davy Fitz late into the game in managing, but he felt his time was coming to an end small bit. But Darragh Egan, what do you expect from him at the start? I know it's going well so far. It didn't go so well in the Walsh Cup in a way, but what do you expect from Darragh Egan before he came in?
God, it was very hard to know what to expect from Darragh. You know, he probably didn't know what to expect himself. Maybe it was his first go at it. You know, he's told us, he was on our podcast there a couple of weeks ago, and he told us how he learned so much from Liam Sheedy. You know, been involved with Liam Sheedy for 3 years, and it's fairly evident that Liam Sheedy is a man if you can learn from him, you learn from him. Also, coaching with Eamon O'Shea, it's very clear that Eamon O'Shea knows how to coach forward play. And if Dara, he seems to be a smart guy, he clearly learned from those guys and clearly tried to learn as much as possible. And he would have seen both, because he was originally a forward for Tipperary, on and off the team as a forward. And then he was sub-goalie for a few years. And there seems to be a bit of a trend with goalkeepers going quite high in management.
Yeah, absolutely. And even I was going through Wexford's scoring stats at least, and Lee Chin hasn't played so far, but you look at the forwards that have scored so far. Rory O'Connor has been absolutely excellent so far. Against Clare as well, he had a phenomenal game. Jack O'Connor has played excellent. Oisin Pepper, as you mentioned. So that has to be a positive as well. All these forwards are coming into the fray as well, other than Lee Chin, of course.
Yeah, well, that's very important. Like Conor McDonald as well, in the Walsh Cup, he played Kilkenny. He scored 6 points in play. I think Conor's going to have a big year. I think come championship, he's going to be primed, because the team is actually playing in a way that suits him now. It's not just going to be only long ball up, but playing in a way that suits him. Oisin Pepper obviously then 1-1. Paul Morris has barely seen any game time in the league. I think we'll see a bit more of him. So it's good that these players are getting more game time. And Rory O'Connor, obviously, like, what can we say? It's just been ridiculous, really, the last 2 games. Some of the points he's been getting. And so he's going to be very much a marked man come championship. Not that he wouldn't have been in previous years, but I think he's bringing that consistency to his game this year. And hopefully we'll see it in every game. Been so direct. When he gets the ball, he's straight, he's going for goal. He's really on fire, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, I've noticed Rory O'Connor over the last few years a bit underrated in the Wexford team, but I suppose consistency is a main thing, of course. And yeah, he's definitely showing it this year. 1-8 from play, superb. And long may it continue for him. Just before we leave this game in a way, a word on Offaly. Like, they've lost 3 games so far in Division 1A. Like, is there kind of a purpose of Offaly being in this division in a way, like, to improve their team? Or do you think them getting so much heavy beatings won't be beneficial for them going to the Joe McDonagh Cup this year?
I don't think that it's beneficial. Now, you can have different way. Like, Westmeath were in a similar situation last year. They went on to win the Joe McDonagh, which obviously was positive goals against what I'm thinking. The previous year, I think Carlo had a wind up on the top league. Well, the top league, they got almighty beatings, and then they got relegated. They got almighty beatings in the league. Then they were in the championship of Joe McDonagh. It didn't go well for them, whereas they had won it. They had won it 2 years previous, and they still had the players. I think it dented their confidence, because they had a very good management structure under Colin Bonner. It's hard to. I think they just made a jump too quick. It's not their fault. That's the way they got promoted. You play promotion, but that's where you are. It's very tough for them, and maybe it would have been a little nicer if they were in the other group, where they got to play Laois or Antrim as well. But every single game here is, against a top team, a team that's not going to be not in contention every year. So I think it's a little unfair, I suppose. But you ask an Offaly person, they're probably like, no, we want to be at the top. It's not too long. I still remember when I was growing up, used to going up to Croke Park watching Offaly beat Wexford. So it's not, they still probably see themselves that that's where they should be, and that's fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose there is kind of a thing that Offaly fans want, just to improve their team a small bit. Like, they've gone out to Christy Ring, they've been in the Dodgers for years. They probably deserve a crack at the top league, but it could go either way, I suppose. At the same time, like you mentioned, Westmeath winning the Joe McDonagh Cup despite getting so many beatings, and maybe that could be good for Offaly. But let's not forget Antrim are in that Joe McDonagh Cup as well. Get on to him later. They're putting up some very good performances. But for this game, at least, you'd be backing a comfortable Wexford win despite a few changes.
Oh, I would, yeah. Yeah, I would, no disrespect to Offaly, but I would expect a Wexford win and get some game time into different players who haven't seen it yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing who does get the game time.
Yeah, definitely. And Wexford on road to a fourth Division 1A win. The next game we're going to talk about is Dublin against Kilkenny. It's on RT2 at 5 o'clock on Saturday at Portlaoise Park. Two Leinster rivals of yourselves. Dublin seem to be going pretty well at the moment, winning the Walsh Cup and doing well in the league as well under Matthew Kenny.
Yeah, they were very impressive in that Walsh Cup game against Wexford. Everything was so accurate. Wexford couldn't put anything over the bar. Everything Dublin hit was very accurate. I think Dublin probably put the favourites for this game. I think, not in general, obviously against Kilkenny, but they've been doing really well. They've 5 points out of 6. Kilkenny, I think they've only beaten Laois. Am I wrong with that?
They've beaten Laois and Antrim so far.
Laois and Antrim, sorry. But this is a bit of a step up for Kilkenny. They're probably welcoming Ballyhale guys back. So TJ Reid, he's quite an addition. But Dublin seem to be kind of peaking around this time. I think obviously come championship it'll be a little different, but Dublin are definitely peaking earlier and very much. I think they'll want to lay down a marker as well for the Leinster Championship, because they haven't got out of they haven't made an impact the last couple of years. Sorry, they beat Galway last year, but then they were very, very unlucky with what happened before the Leinster final, losing those players to COVID, losing their full back to an injury. So maybe they'll feel they have a score to settle with Kilkenny. I think Dublin, I'm going to tip Dublin for this one, having a home advantage as well, which I think is quite big in Portlaoise Park, with the tight pitch. I think it suits them there.
Yeah, you could be right there. Even looking at Kilkenny's games as well, even looking, they only beat Laois and Antrim. They lost to Tipperary, who themselves lost to Dublin last Saturday night as well. So for Kilkenny, well, I suppose you mentioned there the Ballyhale lads are coming back into it, the likes of TJ Reid, the likes of Adrian Mullen, so they will get a kick out of that. But for Dublin, do you see them actually winning Leinster this year? I know there's Wexford as well, Galway performing well, but Dublin performing well in the Walsh Cup, performing well in the league, 5 points out of 6. Could it be their year to win their first Leinster since 2013, do you think?
I hope not. But I do think Leinster, this is the first year in a number of years where Leinster is serious competition. Like, of those 4 teams, no disrespect to the other 2 teams in it, but Dublin, Kilkenny, Galway, Wexford, you wouldn't be surprised if any of them won it, and you wouldn't be surprised if any of them didn't actually get out of Leinster. They're so close right now. Galway looked great against Limerick, didn't look so good against Wexford last weekend. Dublin have looked pretty good in every game. Kilkenny haven't been great, but can you ever rule out Kilkenny? That'd be just ridiculous to rule out Kilkenny, especially, just the players they have. TJ Reid, in my opinion, has been the greatest hurler of the last. I know Joe Canning is great. In my opinion, TJ Reid has been the best hurler of the last 10 years. He's still there. He's still not too bad. It will be interesting. Now, I don't think it will, but I wonder, will the Ballyhale guys find it a bit tough? Like, that was a sickening blow to them. So I'm interested to see, will they need a bit of timeout? Like, Championship, League coming so quickly, Championship again coming so quickly. I wonder, would they really need a bit of time off before they're back right? I mean, it'd take some time to get over that loss. That was a sickener.
It definitely was a sickener indeed. And even looking at Kilkenny's scores this season, Martin Keown scored 2-7 so far. I think Alan Murphy scored a few as well. So they do have the forwards there, but they just need those extra players to come back in, the likes of TJ Reid, the likes of Owen Cody, and the likes of Adrian Mullen. But it's an interesting one with Kilkenny. They got to the semi-finals in the last 3 years. They've only reached the final once in that time. Do you think Brian Cody's losing his touch a bit? No doubt at all, he's one of the greatest managers ever in the GA, never mind hurling. But do you think he's kind of losing his touch small, but considering the failure from the Kilkenny hurlers in the last 2 years or so?
You could make that argument. You could make that argument that they don't quite play. They still play a little bit direct. Like, they kind of never got to grips of what Waterford were doing in the second half of that semi-final in 2020. You could make the argument that Dublin would have beaten them last year in the Leinster final. Was it not for the very unfortunate incident for Dublin? But like, you hear a lot of people saying, I think a lot of people saying that Kilkenny actually just don't have the players anymore. But yet he still won the last 2 Leinster finals, So I don't know if he's losing his touch. I don't think they're going to win the All-Ireland. To say he's losing his touch is a bit much. Like, if he doesn't have the players, then sure, they're not going to win anyway. So I think he probably just deserves that bit of respect, He did. Like, that was an epic game against Wexford last year in the semi-final. They came out on top. I felt over the 70 minutes, Wexford were the better team, but they didn't win. Kilkenny won. And even if they don't have the players, every player embodies Brian Cody's refusal to lose, like tenacity. So I don't know, losing his touch is a bit harsh. I do know a lot of people would think he should move on, but I think maybe he should probably just get a bit of tactical help, maybe, as opposed to move on, because he definitely still has the drive to win. He's definitely bringing that. That hasn't lessened one bit, I'd say.
Yeah, I suppose there is the saying, you can never write off the Cats, and I suppose that's how good Brian Cody can be once, he gets his team into form, and he might need tactical change and all that, but as you rightly said, there are 2 Leinster titles in a row. Something, they have the players clearly, but there is an argument, can they go further than the semi-finals? And they haven't over the last few years. It'll be interesting to see how they progress in the next few months or so. But you'll be tipping Dublin to win this game at home. Like, it's a tough ask for Kilkenny, but do you think Dublin will stamp their authority in this game?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Dublin. I think, they're going very well. Danny Sutcliffe playing very well, winning ball in the air, scoring. Ronan Hayes is an excellent full forward. And yeah, I think I'm gonna tip. I'll tip Dublin for this one. I'm sure come championship when they meet, I'll be probably tipping Kilkenny. But for this one, the way that both teams are playing right now, the way Dublin are playing is excellent. So I'm gonna tip Dublin for it. Yeah.
Yeah, should be a very interesting game, and definitely a brilliant court raiser for the Leinster Championship indeed. And that game is live on RT2 at 5 o'clock on Saturday. The next game is also live on RT on Saturday. This time at 7 o'clock. It's between Cork and Galway and Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And like Wexford, Cork have won 3 games in a row against, let's just say, slightly worse opposition than Wexford so far, but still 3 wins on the board. Impressive there. Galway only losing last weekend, of course, to Wexford. So this should be a ding-dong battle in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, considering Galway's game so far, especially against Limerick in matchday 2.
I think what we see from Galway is going to be quite interesting in this game, because they were against Limerick. They were clearly up for it, and that was clearly a game they targeted, and they wanted to win that badly. Against Wexford then, last weekend, maybe they certainly weren't as up for it. Maybe they just expected that they would win at home to Wexford. I'm not sure. So I kind of expect a response from Galway after that poor performance last weekend. I expect a response from Galway. Like, there's a lot of players. I think they got out of 15 points they only scored, and seven points from play. Like, you're not going to win many games scoring only 7 points from play. So I'd expect something big from Galway this weekend. And Cork, 3 in a row, been very impressive. Maybe you say the opposition hasn't been good as Wexford, but they bet Limerick out of the gate. The game was over at half time last weekend, Shane Kingston with 2 goals. Maybe he's going to be a big loss. He scored 2 goals in, I think, against Offaly as well. So he's after getting 4 goals already. So he's obviously got sent off, so he won't be playing. I'm expecting big things from Galway, and I just wonder, will Cork be like, Limerick was the one we needed to get over Limerick? Will they kind of just relax a bit, and maybe try tone down the aggression a bit so they don't get any more sent off? But that's hard. It's hard to know again. Like this one, Cork have so many good hurlers as well. So many good young lads coming through. Like there's lads there who brilliant hurlers. I remember seeing young Declan Dalton playing from Father O'Neill's, playing for Cork under 20, and I thought, this guy's amazing. He can't get near it, It's going to be. I would expect this one to be the most interesting game of the weekend, I think. But maybe Cork think we're kind of through anyway, but we'll see.
Yeah, it should be a very fascinating game indeed, and Galway need to, pluck up and perform in this game because the showing against Wexford 7 points from play, not really up to their standard. But I suppose with Cork, you mentioned Shane Kingston out suspended. He scored 417 so far in the league. He scored 4-5 from play. Shows you how integral he is to this Cork team. Like, he's surely going to be a big loss to Cork. Like, and how are they going to replace him? Is Pat Horgan going to step up and get some goals for this Cork team?
Yeah, you could never write off Pat Horgan either. He's one of the best we've ever seen. I mean, he created the first goal for Shane Kingston. Conor Lahan also seems to be back playing well. Pretty much it was his shot where Shane Kingston got the second goal. Like Cork have many forwards. Shane Kingston is one of many excellent forwards they have. Like if you remember in the semi-final against Kilkenny last year, Shane Kingston didn't start. He came on and got 7 points from play or something. But he didn't start because they have some excellent forwards in there. Excellent forwards. I mean, a lot of young lads there. Young Barrett, Connolly. Obviously, we have Horgan. A lot of great forwards who can all take a score. I mean, that's one thing. One thing is level at Cork is they don't have the ball winner. They don't have. It's all left to the Seamus Harnedy, but I think that might be a way of saying every one of them is silky skilled and can put the ball over the bar from almost anywhere. So like they have, even if Horgan is not there, Alan Cadigan, these guys are just, they're phenomenal hurlers.
Yeah, definitely some brilliant forwards, especially for Cork. And when you look at the other side of the coin, then like Galway scores down here, like it doesn't really have good reading for the Galway forwards at fairness. Like, of course, you have Cathal Mannion on 4 points, but I'm sure all them 4 points came against Limerick and then not against Wexford or their first game either against Offaly. Conor Cody has scored 18 points, but he's only scored 4 from play. Evan Doyle had won 7, but only won 2 from play. Like, Galway's forwards just seem to be missing Joe small bit. I know the tenacity is back in Galway and they're good in other parts of the field, but do you think the forward division could cost Galway even a Leinster title and an All-Ireland?
It's hard to know. Like, the quality for Galway is definitely there. Like, Conor Cooney, I remember him watching him play against Wexford in the 2017 Leinster final. I think he got 7 points from play playing corner forward or wing forward. Evan Nyland is a super player. He didn't start. He didn't play much at the weekend. He came on as a sub, I think. But I expect him to start. I think he'll help things. Conor Whelan was obviously missing the weekend, so he's the big one. Like if Conor Whelan comes back, that's huge. Like one of the best forwards in Ireland who can win his own ball, score. He can do it all, this guy. So I wouldn't be worried from a Galway. I'd be worried about them clicking, I suppose, but maybe a bit of leadership in the forwards. But there's certainly not a lack of quality. There's quality forwards there in Galway. and it's just about getting them click. And they have, there's probably no better man over a team to show you how to play in the forwards other than Henry. So I expect big things from Galway come the summer or the spring. It's not even the summer now when we play the championship.
Pretty weird, isn't it, saying spring rather than summer, but it's the world with GA that we live in. But as you say, look, it maybe is a clicky issue with Galway. The stats don't suggest that the forwards are clicking quite yet, but once Brian Concannon, of course, comes back into it, Conor Whelan comes back into it, maybe they'll start shooting up the lights again. And when you look at Cork, we mentioned 3 wins out of 3 so far, albeit against slightly poor opposition. Clare had injury problems. Offaly are not really up to this at the moment. Limerick had nearly a second team out. So this game will really define Cork and show whether they're genuine All-Ireland contenders or not.
Well, I wouldn't be ruling them out if they lost it, and I wouldn't be putting the favourites tag on them if they win it. Like, it's still just one game. They'll still have won 3 out of 4. And who knows which Galway is going to turn up? Is it going to be the one that went hell for leather to beat Limerick, or is it the one that wasn't overly pushed at beating Wexford? It'll be interesting to see. But I just think that was quite poor now from Galway the week before, and Cork were excellent and have so many good hurlers to come in. So I'm going to be thinking that, and it's obviously a home game as well. So I'm going to think that Cork will take that one.
I'm going to go against you. I'm a Cork fan myself, but I just think Galway, they needed something to improve on after that Wexford game last week. As you said, poor enough performance there, and they'll definitely need a point to prove. And I think they'll beat this Cork team. Like, Shane Kingston's going to be a huge loss for us, the goal getter in that team so far in the league. And look, this will be the game to challenge Cork a small bit to see if they're really All-Ireland contenders or not. And it should be a very interesting game. Of course, it's live on RT2 on Saturday night. The next game is Tipperary against Waterford. That's at 1:45 at Walsh Park in Waterford. Anyway, this live on TG Carr. Waterford are another team that started off really like a house on fire. They beat Laois and Antrim. They hammered them. They drew against Dublin, but this will be a test for Waterford despite Tipperary's performance against Dublin last week.
Yeah, big test, and they'll be very much hoping to get one over Tipperary. Tipperary being one of the main hurling strongholds. The team in Munster one of the teams in Munster who have won most All-Irelands in the last 10 or so years. We'll be playing against Colin Bonner, was the coach of WIT for so long. I think he might still live in Waterford. Waterford will be very much motivated to get this one, and they've been playing well. The Ballygunner guys obviously are going to bring a big lift to that setup as well. There's a lot of people thinking that that's going to change the mindset of Waterford hurling. I do think that Waterford are going to be more expected to win this, I think, than Tipperary. Tipperary still being in a transition period, bringing those couple of under 20, under 21 All-Ireland winning teams, trying to bring them through. The loss of Paddy Maher is obviously huge. A new manager. I think that Waterford, a more settled team, manager been there for a few years. Things are looking good for them, They're not in a transition period, These next couple of years are their years, and the Ballygunner guys coming through. Desi Hutchinson, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we see from him this year. He's just an incredible player. Again, don't forget, this is I think it's his 4th year back hurling, from not hurling for a few years. So who knows how good that man can get. And he wasn't too bad in the club final, So I still think Tipperary in that transition period, Colin trying to find new players, it doesn't feel right not seeing Paddy's name there. So it will be interesting to see, but I expect Waterford to get over the line.
And you look at the players Waterford had, disregarding, of course, the Ballygunner lads who didn't play in the first 3 rounds. Like 5 of their players are above 8 points at the moment. Stephen Bennett, Austin Gleeson, Patrick Curran, Kieran Kieran, and Colin Dunford, plus the addition of Ty de Borca back for the first time since 2020 as well. Like, do you think if there's any year to win an All-Ireland for Waterford, it's this year, considering Limerick might be off the pace a bit, they might improve come summertime, but when you look at Waterford's performances now and the players coming in, like the Ballygunner lads, like the Borca, is this a better time than ever to win an All-Ireland?
Well, I think the Waterford people will tell you they couldn't care less when they win it, but they'd just be delighted to win it. But I suppose, yeah, it does look like things are opening up for them. Like Limerick, it appears they're off the pace. 3 losses in a row. If they lose this weekend, before losses in a row, you'd have to wonder what's really going on. But Waterford have been an excellent team over the last few years. Like they had a couple of dips in 18 and 19, but don't forget they got to the final in 17. They got to the final in 2020. They were beaten by the winners last year. You know, they're an excellent team, excellent hurlers, and we'll see whether this, as what a lot of people are saying, is that the Ballygunner win is going to give Waterford hurling the big boost that it needs. We'll see if it does. You know, they might just, it could give them the boost, but they might just come up against the unstoppable force that has been Limerick in the last couple of years. You know, Limerick have just been that good in the last couple of years that I don't care how much of a boost you get, they're still going to beat you. So we'll see. It's interesting, but of course there'd be no better time to do it, you know. But on Ty de Borca, I know he's back. I know he was an excellent hurler. But I think to expect him after his second ACL surgery, he's only back, you know, he's only back his couple of games. To expect him to be back to the same level as he was so quickly, it's a little unfair, I think. You know, maybe he'll prove me wrong and I'll be eating my words, but I think to do it this year so quickly after coming back, I think is a little unfair to expect that from him.
Maybe it is, like you see with so many ACL injuries with footballers. Maybe Colin Cooper didn't come back the same. Colin O'Neill, we'll see with Tommy Conroy now. Hopefully he'll be back to form, but 2 ACL injuries rather than 1, like it's difficult to come back from. But if Tig, you know, manages to get at least a glimpse of his form from 2020, like at Waterford with Irla Daly there as well to, you know, help him out. There's some very good players at the back line as well, like Connor Prunty of Jamie Barron in midfield as well. So there are players around it to help him. But that is a valid point, I suppose, whether he'll be the better as he is before. But it's interesting with Tipperary, actually, because we mentioned Cork have brilliant youngsters, and no doubt about that. Their under-20s wins, their under-20 finals appearances. But the team to be with Cork in all those years was Tipperary. So you just have to wonder, are these young players not, you know, managed properly, or are these young players just not coming through into senior level as Colin Bonner would have wished, or any other manager in the past?
It's very hard to know. Like, you talk to a Galway person and they're just like, oh, these lads are not up to it physically, you know. And it's really hard to know, and it's probably a hindrance to bringing young lads through when you have such a quality team there. Like, there's a lot of Tipperary lads there from the 2010 All-Ireland winning team. You know, Polly's obviously retired, but still Brendan Maher retired. So now they're kind of been thrown into the deep end, maybe. You know, it's hard to know. Like, Liam Cal gets a lot of credit for winning those 2 All-Irelands with those teams. Like, in the first one they won, I think they got a last-minute goal to beat Cork. Jake Morris got it. I think Cork were the better team, probably had the better players. But Tipp got over the line, excellent manager, had a, you know, serious drive to win. So they did get over the line. But that's still, the next year, they walked it. You know, it's hard to know what the best way to bring through young players is all the time. and maybe they're just struggling with that transition. Maybe in the last couple of years, Liam Sheedy could have helped by bringing through a bit more. Like, there was very few of those guys who got the game time. Like, if just looking from a Wexford point of view, right? If we got one All-Ireland win in our 21 team, we're thinking, right, these guys are the team for the next 10 years. But because it's Tipperary, because they've had such success, different underage teams and senior, it kind of means nothing, you know? Not that it means nothing, but it's not quite what it would mean to a county like us or to a county like Waterford, who doesn't see that success all the time. But it's a very interesting question on why teams like Galway, who have such great underage success, and this Tipp team, those two Tipp teams who won, why they haven't come through properly. Is it that things were too easy for them underage? They're not willing to do the hard graft? Is just things get a bit tougher, you know? But it's hard to know. I suppose each young lad is different. You have to look at it differently. But I still think with the amount of good young players that Tipperary have, that they will come through. They will come through. Doesn't mean they'll win anything, but they will come through, and some of them will look like excellent hurlers in the next couple of years. Maybe not this year, but in the next couple of years, definitely.
There is definitely potential in Tipperary. I've even seen it, watching Cork and Tipperary games down through the years under 20s, and Tipp definitely held their own. They hammered Cork in that All-Ireland final. I know Jake Morris scored the winner of that Munster final. Cork were kind of unlucky. But then the All-Ireland final, Tipp absolutely slaughtered Cork. And you'd have to wonder as well why these players aren't coming through. But maybe it's Colin Bonner building a system at the same time. People are saying that over the last 2 weeks. So we'll just have to wait and see as we move on to championship time. But for this game, with Waterford at home, with the Ballygunner lads predictably going to come back into the team, do you think they'll have enough to win this?
Oh, I'm going to be tipping Waterford for this one. Yeah, I think it's the timing is right. Home game as well in Walsh Park. I think this is the game for Waterford. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to go past Waterford with the form they're in at the moment, and that game is live at TG Carr of 145. And on the TG Carr update is two other Munster rivals, Clare against Limerick. Now, this is an interesting game. Clare have Tony Kenny back at the team, who scored 212 last week against Offaly. I know it was against Offaly, but it shows you he is back. He's back to form now. And Limerick, this is a really strange one. They've lost 3 in a row now. Another tough game going to Cusack Park against Clare. Do you think it's the end of this run for Limerick, or do you think they're kind of, gearing up towards the summer instead of peaking too early?
Well, I think they're definitely, without a doubt, they're gearing up towards the summer without peaking too early. Not that they wanted to lose the games, but the most important thing is that they peaked, for a championship. But confidence is a hard thing to get back when you lose it. Now, they've won 3 of the last 4 All-Irelands. So obviously confidence is going to be high. But when you keep losing games, if you lose 4 in a row, your confidence has to be dented. So I reckon they're going to be taking this one a little more seriously. They played Clare in the Munster Cup in January, bet them out the gate. So I think they'll fancy themselves to. Now, Tony Kelly wasn't there. He's quite a decent player. He scored 212 on his comeback, having not done that much hurling really, at the weekend. But I think Limerick are going to take this one very seriously. Clare, even with Tony Kelly, I don't think they're world beaters. They're also missing Aidan McCarthy, who's one of the best hurlers for the last couple of years. There's a couple of lads up front, excellent, decent young prospects. Shane Mean, Mark Rogers. I don't think they're quite there yet. John Conlon is still transitioning back into the forwards, I think. And probably missing centre back. I would fancy I'd fancy Limerick to get over the line in this one, and there might be like a massive backlash from them where they absolutely hammer Clare. I mean, don't forget, I know it's an away game for Limerick, really, but it's only 20 minutes away from Limerick. It's not really an away game. It's as close as they could get. It'll be interesting to see though, like four losses in a row in the league for Limerick would scream, crisis, wouldn't it?
It definitely would, yeah. And even looking back to last year's league, they lost 2 games out of 3. They drew against Tipperary the first day out, but they didn't lose 3 in a row. Like, it can't get worse surely about this. But the thing is, the Clare fans see Limerick in the doldrums, in sort of doldrums after losing 3 games in a row. The Clare folk will get behind their team, no doubt about that, and will try to drive on this team to victory. With Tony Kelly back in the team, I know Mark Rogers, I think, is out injured for this game, so that's a huge loss. Aidan McCarthy's out, but still, the Clare fans will be riled up for this, see their rivals on the floor after losing 3 games in a row.
Yeah, probably. They'll like to really stick the knife in. They've probably been absolutely sick watching them win the All-Ireland for the last few years. So maybe, yeah, they're going to be targeting this game. So it'll probably be a great game in Cusack Park. There's a young lad there playing for Clare. He came on as a sub against Wexford. Patrick Crotty is his name. I just found him really great to watch. All skill, looked like a throwback to someone from the 80s or something with his socks pulled up. He's one to watch for Clare now. He got the start last weekend. So, but watch out for him. The ball seems to go up, and just I don't know how he gets it, but it seems to appear in his hand.
Yeah, definitely. Like you see, I've had scores here from the Clare team as well. Patrick Crotty's actually in their top 5 scorers, along with Cathal Malone, Shane Mee, and Mark Rogers and Tony Kelly. Like, there are some very good players in this Clare team, but you see Aidan McCarthy get injured, Mark Rogers get injured, Tony Kelly was injured for a brief spell as well at the start of the year. You kind of have the feeling if Clare are going to do well in like Munster Championships and All Irelands, they'll probably need their full complement fit. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's no escaping how important Tony Kelly is. Then maybe they don't have biggest squad. Like, Aidan McCarthy was incredibly important for them last year. He's missing, I think he's gone for the year. So he's a huge loss. Probably haven't got a natural number 6. Carl Malone seems to have come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. He looks a great player. But if you lose any of those guys, if they lost Conor Cleary fullback, I'm not sure they have another guy to fit in at fullback. Obviously, if no team is going to replace Tony Kelly. If they lost Carl Malone, I don't think they have another guy to come in and replace him. Like, they do need to have their full complement to compete, even not just to win, but to compete again. The Corks and Limericks, I think they would need their full complement, and if they don't, I'd worry. Like Brian Lohan, if what you hear is true, that he's up against it with county board issues and stuff, then like he just needs everything he can get. Like, I don't see them being in the business end of the championship, really. Tony Kelly or no Tony Kelly. Be great to see him though, that just thinking of that point he scored against Cork last year, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see Clare even progress as far as past Munster in the championship because of how competitive Munster is. Like, you have the feeling Tipperary with their youngsters will improve. Cork are doing excellent at the moment. Of course, it could be a bit too soon for them, but still very good performances at least. And Waterford and Limerick, by the looks of the last few years anyway, and in Waterford's case at the start of the year, they look very good and are potential All-Ireland contenders. So it's very hard for Clare really to get over the Munster Championship. But going back to Limerick, yes, there are some negatives, but in fairness, there is one positive. A young player coming up through the ranks, Cathal O'Neill. He scored 1-5 from play in this league so far. He's probably been their shining light in the league. So once the usual contingent will come back into play, the likes of Garrod Haggerty, Tom Morrissey, obviously, Aaron Gallag, Keane Lynch come back from NUIG action. Like, once they come back in, added to that, Cathal O'Neill coming in, if they're all in form, this could be another whitewash for the rest of the teams in the country.
Well, if all those guys played to the level that they played for the last 2 years, then yes, it probably will be another whitewash. There's no getting away from that. Peter Casey is obviously a big loss. They have struggled to replace players if they haven't played well. Say, Gillan was dropped for the game against Tipperary last year, and he was brought in at half time because they needed him. You know, they probably thought they could get away without him playing. I think they played maybe Mulcahy. Like, Mulcahy's an excellent player, but he probably doesn't do the same job that Gillan does. With Peter Casey gone, you have to imagine Mulcahy's going to be the man who takes that spot. There's other guys who want it. Maybe Pat Ryan. You mentioned Cathal O'Neill in the half-forward line. He's done quite well. He's also had a few bad misses. They expect him to put over the bar, but he seems to be a guy who's going to feature in this year's championship. But when everyone's fit, like, he faces a serious tough test just to get into the team. Never mind when he does play. Like, could you really not play Hegarty or Morrissey or Lynch in the half-forward line? You know, you'd have to move Lynch midfield maybe or something, and then someone else centre forward. So, as good as that Cathal O'Neill is, I don't see him starting, you know.
He definitely has performed very well, but it's at the same time, yeah, it's hard to see him start, considering if Aaron Gillan is in top form, you don't know if Cathal O'Neill, how he's going to break into the team, but we'll see as the year progresses, I suppose. But for this game, you said it already, you'd be tipping Limerick for this game, despite being away in Cusack Park.
Oh, I think a big Limerick backlash is coming. There's no way they're going to lose 4 in a row.
Yeah, it's kind of an easy prediction when you put it that way. I'd probably go with Limerick myself as well. And the last game is between Antrim and Laois, so I've TG Carr at 3:45. Like, both of these teams, it's fair to say, are fighting off avoiding relegation.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the way we would have expected it, and that's the way it's turned out. Performance-wise, you would have to say Antrim have looked better. Laois have got a few tunes. Antrim have been pretty much competitive in every game. Probably a little unlucky to not get a draw last weekend against Waterford. And you would have put your house on McManus scoring that penalty, but he didn't. So performance-wise, you'd be looking at Antrim, you know, and you would have been doing that last year as well, thinking the Antrim. But when it came down to relegation playoff last year, Laois were the ones who took it. Laois are at home. It is a good trip. Like, it's a good trip from Belfast to Laois, and Laois are not bad now. I don't think they're as bad as the scorelines have suggested, maybe. But I'm gonna go with Antrim on this one. I know they're away, but they have played a lot better, and I think they'll feel. There was a great photo actually, just thinking of Antrim. Even though he missed the penalty at the end, he would have been very upset. Like, a draw against Waterford would have been pretty big for them. And McManus missed the penalty, but he was still out on the pitch signing autographs with the kids with a big smile on his face after the game. I thought it was a great photo. I think Joe Brolly put it up. Maybe just a few others put it up as well. But I'm gonna be tipping Antrim. I think they perform much better. Maybe again, the league, maybe Laois might come on, and when it comes, be a better team in the championship. But I'm gonna look at Antrim winning this one. It's yeah, pretty much whoever win. If it'd be sickener for Antrim to play so well in all the games, get no points, and then they come up against the team they're expected to get a result, not expected to, but a real team that you have a great chance, even though they've been getting hammered. they come out with the result. And they'll still have a far superior points difference to Laois. But you have to beat the team that's in front of you. It doesn't matter if you lose by 1 or lose by 40, really, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned, Antrim had some scores all over the pitch in many ways. Like, other than Neil McManus, they've Keelan Malloy scoring a lot so far. And there's other forwards, of course, there. But Laois, look at stats. They're very reliant on Stephen Picky-Maher at the moment. Like, is that sustainable going into the summer? I know Laois have survived before. They survived against Allianz last year in the championship and in the league. But do you think being reliant on so reliant on one player will cost them down the line?
Stephen Picky-Maher is a superb player. He's one of the best. You know, if he was with another county, he'd get more plaudits. But I think Ross King is an excellent forward there. They probably just don't have enough. I'm not saying I just don't think they're reliant on one, probably reliant on a few. Paddy Purcell has been an excellent forward, an excellent midfielder over the last few years. The way things are going, like they don't just need one player, they need a good few to help out. Like I don't think it's a Clare situation where they're reliant on Tony Kelly to compete with the big boys. I think if Picky-Maher is not there, I think the results are not getting that much worse. You know, he needs to do a hell of a lot more for them to say they're too reliant on him. You know.
Just look at the stats this season. Not in the previous years. Like he scored 119 so far compared to, Ross King has scored 7 points so far. That's not really up to that at the moment, but maybe they will improve as the year goes on. But we're both tipping Antrim for this game. I would think, despite being in Portlaoise.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Antrim, but I would not be one bit surprised if Laois turned them over. You know, it's just interesting the way things work like that. Each game, you have to take each game. As John Giles says, you have to take each game on its merits.
That's exactly it. And I suppose just one game that interests me going out of the divisions, it's Westmeath against Down in the Division 2A. Down lost their first game actually last week against Kildare. Quite a hard done by. Didn't have to win in the first half. I was hearing in that game. Westmeath, with the squad they have and being in the Liam McCarthy, you'd expect them to get up. But it won't be an easy game for Westmeath, this.
No, it'll be quite competitive. Down a little unlucky last year not to get through the group in the Joe McDonagh. I think they lost on score difference. But I still think Westmeath, you know, Westmeath are playing in that Leinster Championship. Down have never been in it. The two Doyle's excellent hurlers, Davy Glennon. I think Westmeath just a better team, and I would expect them to take it.
Yeah, you'd have to expect Westmeath to win this game and eventually get on and get promotion. And suppose, thank you, Ben, for coming on to the podcast. Before we go, just a reminder where our listeners and viewers can find the Hurling Podcast.
Yeah, you find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your general podcasts. Just called the Hurling Podcast, or we are on Twitter at Hurling Podcast, or Instagram at Hurling Podcast. Simple enough. We might have to change the name soon. Off the Ball have been naming their hurling show something similar, so we might have a legal battle, or someone will change their name. We'll see.
We'll Callan on the ropes there, lads. But I suppose thanks for coming on to the podcast, Ben. And wish you the best of luck for the podcast in the next few months and weeks or so. And best of luck to Wexford in the year as well.
Thank you. Same to you. Hopefully we'll have a Wexford Cork final to talk about in a few months.